This is the Quintessential Male, Big Jake Shepherd, and you are listening to the WrestleHorror podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to WrestleHorror. Greetings, viewers and listeners. Meathook Jim here, the WrestleHorror podcast. With me, as always, my co-host Donnie Hoover with his Pennywise. That balloon's starting to look a little weak again, Donnie.
Yeah, it's going down day by day again. About to have to replace this one again soon. They don't last as long as I'd hope for.
You know, I've been looking for a Jason animatronic for you.
There you go.
I found some life-size stand-ups.
Yeah.
But they're not, they're just two-dimensional, not three-dimensional.
Right. Yeah, as I was saying before, I got a bunch of stuff sitting here behind me on the floor I need to get it put up. So he might have to leave the studio for a little bit.
Well, but we're not here to talk about Jason. We're here to talk about our guest. He is a rich woman's dream, a poor woman's fantasy. He is the quintessential male, Big Jake Shepherd. Jake, welcome to WrestleHorror.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So, ever since I first saw you at FGW, it was kind of hard. Let me put it bluntly. You move really well for a big man.
I've been told that for about the last 6 years or so now. A lot of people have said that that's the one thing that they notice is that I move really well for a big man. Being a super heavyweight who can throw a drop kick is not something you see every day.
No, definitely not. And every time I watch you, there's something new that just amazes me. And I'm not a small man either, but just to watch you work, it just makes me feel that more super heavyweights out there really need to watch what you do.
I definitely appreciate that. I mean, I like to think that I'm a pretty decent super heavyweight when it comes down to it, but obviously there's other super heavyweights out there that are doing way more immaculate athletic things than what I can do, but I feel like what they can do with the athleticism and all that, I can also, do with the emotion that I'm able to evoke from people. So, I feel like I'm more of a complete package instead of just like a athletic big guy or a storytelling big guy I'm just going to stand here and throw a bunch of swings big guy. I feel like I'm kind of more of a complete package, and that's why I call myself the quintessential male. Is quintessential means perfect, so I feel like I'm kind of the perfect package for what a super heavyweight should be in wrestling.
Very cool. So what got you started in this wonderful world called pro wrestling? Who were some of your heroes?
Oh man, so wrestling was something I grew up watching as a kid. Ever since I was like 5, I said I wanted to be a pro wrestler. So, I growing up in the mid to late 90s, obviously The Rock was a huge influence. Didn't get half of what he was talking about at the time, but looking back, still love those promos. And then, obviously guys like Triple H, and just seeing kind of the reactions that they were able to get out of me as I, grew up and got more into the business. I, really realized that a lot of times it was the heels that, would really kind of stick out to me, were my, quote unquote heroes, so to speak. But, guys like Triple H, Kurt Angle, obviously Vader, Bam Bam Bigelow, as I really started to train and start to figure out kind of what I was going to have to be able to do. Those were the guys I would watch. Abyss had actually, Abyss had a pretty big influence on me because I was trained by Roger Ruffin,
Okay.
who trained Abyss down here in Cincinnati. And I was a couple months into training, and Abyss came in and was running training sessions with us. And, I was able to learn a decent little bit from him when he was here. I wish I could have learned more, but just a couple interactions I had with him, he helped kind of morph me into what I would become, as far as being a wrestler. But to go back to the initial question of what got me into it, it was just something I was always into my entire life, and I knew that that was what I wanted to do.
Okay.
Yeah, you're kind of like me. I kind of gravitated toward the big men too, and Vader, Bam Bam, all those guys, Bruiser Brody,
Oh
all
yeah,
those big guys are always big favorites of mine as well.
Stan Hansen is another one.
Yeah, Stan Hansen. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was Blackjack Mulligan, and his son Barry Windham were big on my list. Of course, Ric Flair behind me here.
Hmm.
Um, so did you watch mainly WWF/WWE, or did you get a little bit of everything? Did you watch NWA? Did you watch WCW?
well, growing up, I had two older brothers. The oldest was really big into wrestling, so there was a bunch of like DVDs of like old WWF stuff, like even WrestleMania, or sorry, VHS tapes, rather.
Yep.
It's been so long since I've seen a VHS tape that I had to. But yeah, we had VHSs of a bunch of old WWF stuff. We would, and then obviously having cable. I grew up in the Monday Night Wars, so I would start on Monday nights watching WCW, and then I would flip over to watch Raw and try to flip back and forth. And there was nights where my older brother was a Nitro fan, so I would just run from my room to his to see what was happening on Nitro, and then run back to my room to watch Raw during commercial breaks, stuff like that. But pretty much anything I could get my hands on as far as like mainstream wrestling, that was what I was into. Obviously like the NWA stuff, that was stuff that I kind of got into more as I got into the business, and a little bit more access to it as far as like YouTube or even the network, stuff like that. But I was a huge WWF, WCW, even TNA fan, when they came around.
Yep.
There was ECW that I remember watching, when I was a kid, because my oldest brother loved ECW. And so it's just kind of that time frame. But I would say I mostly gravitated toward WWF, just because they had, the guys like The Rock, Kurt Angle, Stone Cold, Undertaker.
Right. Well, definitely during that period, I was doing the same thing. I was bouncing back and forth between shows. I was always a bigger WCW fan because I grew up in Florida.
Right.
So there was, Florida Championship Wrestling was an NWA territory. And then Georgia Championship Wrestling, which morphed into WCW. And, when Jim Crockett Promotions decided or was bought out, and the NWA just kind of became WCW at that point in time, was more of my speed. But I used to watch as much as I could, and TNA as well when they came around. I've always kind of resisted Vince a little bit just because I don't like his work ethic as far as the way he treats talent.
Understandable.
But I saw Impact or TNA as the alternative. So I started getting into that, and I really, really enjoyed that for many years, and I still do. And I've several of the stars there, and of course, last night we had Ace Austin at FGW.
Right.
So I try to be open-minded and watch as much wrestling as I can, and I'm not like these people that like, oh, AEW is the best, WWE is the best. Watch wrestling for what it is, not for trying to bash somebody because I watch a different program.
Right.
When you started training, did you run into any friction because you were a big man, or what?
Surprisingly, no. I feel like I actually ran into quite the opposite, where people, once they saw me in the ring and, seen that I was able to, take a fall and get back up and move and, do all that, they really started to gravitate toward me, just because I feel like they saw something there, with a big guy who could move, because it was exactly the opposite of what they expected.
Right.
And, as far like the only friction I really felt, was more myself physically, throwing up all the time, every training session. Cause it was, I don't know if you're familiar with like the old Bone Crushers building, but it was basically an old warehouse that in the summertime it was hotter than it was outside. And in the wintertime it was colder than it was outside inside the building. So those summers were brutal, especially for a dude who at the time was coming in about 360, 365, So, yeah, there was a lot of times where, just going through everything and sweating it out. And I'd have to hit the bathroom and take care of the business there as far as getting that out and then getting back in the ring and just pushing on to try to get better and, try to become a wrestler.
Right on.
So that was about the only friction I felt as far as being a big guy. Nobody had any problems with me, but my body sure hated me for quite some time.
Well, I'm glad to hear that that you were well received, because some places they would look at somebody your size and say, no, we
Right.
can't with you. So I'm glad that Roger Ruffin and crew were able to help you achieve your dream, because you're quite entertaining to watch and even work with. Working with you with New Ohio Wrestling and then watch you in FGW is just. I wasn't quite sure about you at first, but after I met the man, I'm all right with you.
So you got the Meathook Gym stamp of approval.
Hey, there we go.
Have you ever experienced anything Donnie calls ankle sweat?
Ankle sweat, man.
I experienced some of that this morning, actually.
I experienced sweat from everywhere. So yeah, them boots get mighty sweaty sometimes, especially in the longer matches.
Right.
Yeah, ankle sweat's no joke.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's kind of our goal with our training center when we do our WrestleFit fitness program, is we don't stop until the ankle sweat starts hitting.
Yep.
What are some of your more memorable matches? Is there any one or two that really stick out with you?
Well, there's matches that are memorable for kind of who they were with, not necessarily how great they were. Like I've been in the ring with guys like Wildcat Chris Harris and Shark Boy. Those were memorable because of the fact that, I'm wrestling guys that I grew up watching on TV. And then there's matches with guys like Amos, who at Battle on the Border, he and I have hated each other for going on 3 years now. It started in like 2018, and every time we're in the ring one-on-one, it's always a memorable night for me because our chemistry is just so good that I know it's not going to be a bad match. And it's also going to be one of those physical matches, because we both just know that we're going to bring it. And speaking of physical matches and memorable matches, all of the matches with Tommy Newport at FGW, I don't know if you were actually there to see those, but I
watched them all. Yeah,
all of those were memorable to me for one reason or another. I really think that the last match we had, the one that wasn't the Body Slam Challenge, was probably the most memorable for me, just because of the reaction of the crowd that night and how physical that match was, and just knowing that we had the crowd exactly where we wanted them. So that was probably my favorite recent match that I can think of off the top of my head. But personally, my favorite, most memorable match was my first one, which was Roger Ruffin had sent me up to I think it was DCW, Dynamic Championship Wrestling, for Big Jim Hutchinson and Tommy Blaze. And I got sent up there with a guy named Chiron. I don't know how familiar you two are with Chiron, but
Yeah, he works for War and Big Tom and them.
yep. And he was my very first match. He was also a guy who had a big hand in training me. To go back to an earlier question, he helped mold who I was as a wrestler at that point, and he was my very first match, and it was a really fun match. And that's actually also the only match that my mom ever got to watch, live. So that's the most memorable for a personal reason. And I think that I'll never forget that match.
Okay. Donnie, any questions for Jake?
Yeah, I do. I want to pick his brain on something that it's something that I used to do, because as if everybody that knows Jake, most of his careers, he's been a heel and all that, and he does the heel stuff, which is great. Which that's back in my day, that's what I did. And to me, when I got the heat so hot to where when the face won every time and they popped, that's what I wanted. I wanted to hear the biggest pop for me losing that I could get. And every time we got a big pop, it gave me goosebumps. I mean, even though all my friends that wasn't in the business, like, well, you lose a lot. I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. I'm like, you get that big pop, that's what it's about. And I explain it to them. But with that being said, recently at the Zucchini Fest, I'd seen you at FGW and seen you around the place, but I'd never, worked with you. And at the Zucchini Fest, we had Eric Smalls. He was supposed to go up against Mr. Main Event, but Mr. Main Event, fell sick and everything, and had to back out. So we needed a replacement. And your name got brought up as a replacement. Actually, Peachy Rodriguez mentioned you and said to bring you in. So I reached out to you, and I was completely transparent. I said, we're going to put you in with Eric Smalls, and you knew who he was. He's a midget wrestler. And it just seemed like you immediately kind of knew where we were wanting to go with it. And you were just like, yeah, I'm in, let's do it. Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
And so like you guys did the match, and Eric, he's told me a couple times, since then, that he had a blast doing the match. And the match was what it was supposed to be. It was a super heavyweight versus a midget wrestler. It was comedy. It was some heavy shots to make it think like you were going to tear Smalls apart. And then the finish happened, and you guys probably got the biggest pop out of the Zucchini Fest when he got the 3 count. And so when that happened, did that do like it did for you, like it does for me? Did you get like a little goosebump type moment when you heard that big pop from getting that win, or for him getting that win?
Oh, for sure. I mean, the goosebumps started when he came out of the building, and I heard the first pop. I'm like, okay, this is where we're going to be easy night. And then as the match is going on, and then finally, once I missed that Vader bomb and he hits the moonsault and he gets the 3, and the crowd's just erupting, and
oh yeah,
somebody sliding me a cookie from from earlier in the match. And I grabbed the cookie, roll over to PG and say, hey, somebody handed this to me. And then just hearing the crowd, I'm like, yeah, we did exactly what we were supposed to. And then just a little short story off to the back end of that. As I hand the cookie, I roll back over and see somebody's jacked my rose. Somebody's, took my rose and is handing it to somebody. So I'm like, well, being a heel, I'm going to go ahead and just snag that rose right back, especially if they're going to be right there. So I get out of the ring. Girl still happens to be standing there. So I give me that rose back, snatch it, grab it, get to the back and find out it was Smalls' daughter.
Oh, yeah.
So he was like, hey man, can I, have the rose? And I was like, yeah, just tell her you beat me up for it or something.
She was probably like, asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. Like I said, that's kind of the same feeling I got. Like, if I could, entice and work with the face enough to get him over and get that big pop at the end. And that, like I said, it made me feel like I won just as much as he did. So,
For sure.
Yeah. So I just kind of,
when
Okay.
Tommy gave me the body slam at FGW, that was another one of those moments
Mhm.
because he gets me up there, slams me the first one, not the actual body slam challenge match, because that one was a little flatter than the initial body slam where I just body slammed somebody. Tommy came out, got me, crowd erupted. I thought the building was, going to explode. And
Mhm.
I've also been on the opposite side of that as a face as well. Because when I first started out, I was a face for a majority of my career, probably from 2015 up to 2017. I was actually a face, and then
Mhm.
2017 to 2021, I'm a heel. And
Mhm.
but it's the best feeling in the world to hear that pop as a heel and know that you are the reason that guy just, him winning and beating you. These people wanted to see you get beat so bad that
Mhm.
you can hear them just losing their
Losing their
minds.
mind. Yep, absolutely.
And that reminds me, going back to the Smalls match, and you and I discussed this after the show. There was that girl sitting down there in the front row that said, "Oh my God, is he going to eat him?"
Get in my belly.
And
Yeah.
last night at FGW, Mikey was with me, Donnie,
Uh-huh.
and Jake was out at the ringside, and Mikey, you lost to a midget. And
I did hear somebody say Smalls was behind me, and I was wondering who that was that said that.
that was my friend Mikey.
Yeah, it's the guy right over Jim's left shoulder there, or right shoulder if you're looking at the screen.
That way.
Yeah, there, guy.
Yeah, he looks familiar. Yeah,
Quite a bit.
that was him.
Yep. It was just funny at the time, especially the way you swung around and looked. It was like,
Yeah,
you looked at him like, you asshole.
I mean, it's one of those things where I'm like, well, what can I say? He won.
Yeah.
He beat me. I beat him up, but he beat me. I got cocky at the end of that match. Went for the Vader bomb. Should have just laid on him. I don't even know why I went for the Vader bomb. He moved. I ate the ring. He moonsaulted. It was a bad idea. It was a bad idea on my part. But yes, I did in fact get beat by a midget.
Chalk that up on the to-do list, huh?
Yeah, hey, now on the bucket list is to beat one. So
All
I
right,
just
there you go.
gotta
To do
figure
a
that out.
rematch.
Hey, anytime Eric Smalls wants a rematch, I would gladly wrestle him. I'm pretty sure I've concocted a game plan to beat him. So anytime he wants another shot, bring him on.
All right.
Heard that, Smalls.
Did 2020 take its toll on your fitness? Well, body slam the pandemic and get back in shape with WrestleFit. This innovative program combines all the fitness regimens you'll need to reach your goals. The WrestleFit workout will bring strength training, cardio, and the world of professional wrestling together in a fun, new, and exciting way. Have yourself a blast working out with dumbbells, kettlebells, slam balls, ropes, tires, and an 18-foot full-size wrestling ring. The WrestleFit workout isn't just for pro wrestlers. The WrestleFit workout is for everybody. At the Now Training Center, you can pursue your fitness goals and learn how to train like a professional wrestler without all the bumps, bruises, and slams with the WrestleFit workout. Go to www.newohiowrestling.com/training for more information, or stop by the Now Training Center at 625 Eastgate Parkway, Blacklick, Ohio, 43004, Unit 6137.
So, Jake, we talked before we went on the air, and you said you're not a huge horror fan, but you do like some horror. The first question I'd like to ask is, of the horror films you've seen, what have been some of your more favorite horror films?
Well, I mean, obviously you got the classics like the Nightmare on Elm Street stuff. I watched the first couple of those. Didn't get through all the sequels, but the Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween stuff. That's another one where I haven't watched all the movies in the franchise, but I watched the first couple of the original, and then I've watched like the Rob Zombie version, of the Halloween. just random, stuff that I've come across that I can't really remember right now.
Okay.
That seems to happen. You get put on the spot. With,
Yeah, which Halloween
content.
Kills comes out in a few weeks, and I can't wait. It's driving me crazy.
Oh, the Pennywise over your shoulder just reminded me, and then the Jason mask, of course.
Yeah, it's
Um,
my pride and joy section right here.
yeah,
I'm a big Jason guy.
when I initially watched the very first It movie, the one that came out back in the day with what was
Tim
his
Curry.
name?
Tim Curry.
Yep, Tim Curry. That
Mhm.
when I was a kid, that freaked me out so much. But then as an adult, when I watched it, kind of made me laugh,
Yeah.
because I was like, this is pretty over the top, pretty cheesy. But then they came out with the new one, and I was like, oh, okay. So this guy's Pennywise now. A little creepy, but I like it though. I didn't watch it chapter 2, but chapter 1 was amazing, I thought. And chapter 2 is on the want to watch list. I need to sit down and do that.
You should. It's it if you ever read the book, the new movies are more true to the book than the original was.
Yeah.
And the book's 1,000 pages. Ugh.
I got to be honest, I bought the book, but never really sat down to completely read it. I started reading it back in like junior high school, but just didn't have the, I guess,
Didn't have the stamina for it.
stamina. Yeah, the stamina to read that.
Yeah, I don't think I could read a 1,000-page
that's a
book either.
taxing book.
Like this thick. I mean, literally, it's 1,000
Yeah.
pages.
Mhm.
You could take that thing out to the ring and hit somebody with it and
Right.
do some damage.
That's what you should do. Bring it out in your next match with Smalls.
Yeah,
smack,
yeah.
smack him with it.
Maybe have him stand on it so I don't feel so bad for beating him up.
That'd be great. That's fun.
So, yeah, and speaking of Jason, obviously Donnie, he mentioned he's a huge Jason fan. He got the opportunity not too long ago actually go to Camp Crystal Lake.
Mhm.
Oh, word?
Yeah. Yeah. And I met the first Jason, the little boy Jason, and the Adrian King, which was the girl that chopped his mom's head off. And that's what that license plate there is for. It's got their
Oh, wow.
yeah, it's got their signatures and everything on it. And yeah, it was an amazing experience for me. That was definitely a bucket list.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I can now see why that is that pride and joy section.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this one's Kane Hodder. He's the Jason through 7, 8, 9, and 10. And
Okay.
yeah, so I got his signature and did a choke pick. He's famous for choking people while they take pictures. So I got one of those, and that was awesome. Yeah, literally. Yeah, he'll choke the shit out of you.
I've had it done too. So
we're gonna try to get it done again next month.
Right. Yeah, he does not hold back at all. I mean, he cinches it in. So
Uncle.
Just long enough for the picture, but it's not loose.
He puts it on you. It's a shoot one, that's for sure.
Hey, you could just lightly put your hands around my throat, right? Nope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he didn't even give you a chance to get ready either. Like for me, he didn't. Because I just went up and I was like, "Hey, can I get a choke pick?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure." And before he finished, sure, he had already locked it on, and I was like, "Oh, I wasn't ready."
Like, he said, "Sure."
Yeah,
Undertaker, 1999.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was pretty awesome.
And for a 60-something-year-old guy, he's in really good shape.
Mm-hmm.
Got an amazing grip. So,
oh yeah.
That's that old man strength. That's a whole different type of strength.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, so we've delved a little bit into the horror aspect. Let's talk Halloween. Do you enjoy Halloween? Do you like it? Do you go to parties, haunted houses, anything like that?
Well, as a kid, I definitely, enjoyed it because it was always free candy, and you don't become a super heavyweight by not accepting free candy.
Right.
So, there was many a years I went. I think my most recurring outfit for Halloween as a kid was Uncle Fester with the light bulb and the bald cap and all that.
Right.
My brother would go as was it? Let's see, was it Oliver Hardy, Laurel and Hardy?
Yeah.
Mhm.
My brother, he would go as the heavier one. So, as kids, we used to love that. Uh, as an adult, I, really haven't done too much on Halloween, but that's normally because I end up having to, work or something and, just having that schedule, and then as far as the parties, I haven't really gone to any here as of late, but, definitely not against them. I mean, who doesn't like to party?
Right.
So would you say that if you went to a haunted house, you'd be one of those people that gets freaked out easily, or are you pretty much nonplussed about it?
I mean, like, as far as like the haunted house attractions and stuff, I always liked going to those as like a teenager, young adult, because sometimes it'll get you,
Right.
every now and again you'll see it coming and you'll be like, oh, that's not, and then you'll see one thing coming and then next thing you know, here's another jump scare and you're, whoa, hey. So as far as like the haunted house attraction type deals, normally can get pretty jump scare, you know. And then as far as like the actual haunted houses, I do enjoy watching like ghost hunters and stuff like that. Back when they would do all their live specials and all that.
Mhm.
No, and I know our listeners are going to get tired of this, but I'm going to say it again. Um, Donnie and I actually next September are going to Rhode Island with our significant others, and Shauna Reed's actually coming with us too.
Mhm.
And we are going to the Conjuring House, do an investigation. That it was, if you watch Ghost Adventures, it was on one of his shows,
Okay.
and it's a very famous haunted house made popular by the movie The Conjuring.
Right.
Um, and there's a lot of activity going on there, and we are really excited to go see that. And Donnie had told Donnie that he needs to bring some Depends because he's probably going to shit his pants.
I am. I've never been on an investigation, so if I'm gonna go big.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't blame you. I mean, what better place to start?
Right. So I'll just throw a diaper on, and that way, if something happens, I can just keep on going and I don't miss nothing.
Bring me my brown pants. Yeah.
So Donnie, I think it's time to ask Jake the question.
Yeah. Yeah. You
Uh-oh.
didn't tell him about FGW neither. He may not know that.
What,
Mhm.
the FGW arena's haunted?
Mhm.
Oh yeah, I've heard about the FGW
Oh, did you?
arena.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I lived in a house that I thought was haunted as a kid. Like I've seen some, little spirit type things here and there before. So
Mhm.
it's one of those things where depending on the spirit or depending on what's going on, I might be scared, might not be,
All right.
might crap my pants. But yeah, the FGW arena, I've heard rumor that there's been activity as far as potential paranormal stuff, and obviously other than Eric Fallen, but
Yeah.
but yeah, I've not personally seen anything, but I've heard from pretty good sources, stuff that they've seen. So
Mhm.
I think it'd be interesting to try to get an investigation going in there one of these times.
I actually would love to do that. It's just coordinating a time and everything where we can do it, because it's got to be overnight.
Right.
It's pointless to do it during the daytime. And I've got all the equipment
Oh,
I've been a paranormal investigator for 20 years.
well, okay. That sounds like a cold open to a Ghost Hunter special right there.
But I just bought some new equipment for our Conjuring House tour, including like I've got an 8-camera DVR system that I can set up around
Wow.
board. I've got full image, full spectrum cameras. I've got recorders. I've got non-contact thermometers, EMF meters. I've got a whole slew of gear.
Man,
And
I
I've,
think I think me and Russ might have to holler at you and try to get on some of these investigations, because it sounds like you're the man with the gear.
am, and I have extras.
I got a question for you, Jim, since hearing what you said, since I'm such a paranormal newbie and have never done one, what's the point or purpose of doing them all at night? Is it just so you can see them better, or do they just not show any activity during the day, or what's the purpose of that?
Well, I mean, activity can happen 24 hours a day, but there's just something about nighttime that's quieter, less hustle and bustle, makes it easier to ascertain information.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not to say it hasn't happened in the daytime. I mean, my house is haunted, and I've had stuff happen during the daytime here.
Mm-hmm.
And just to let you know, Jake, I live right across the street from a big cemetery.
Okay. Yeah. Cemetery, haunted house.
All right.
Who'd ever put those things together?
Yeah. And my house is almost 100 years old. So
100-year-old house. Spirits. Who would put that together?
But
the older the house, I feel like the higher the probability that it's probably got some type of haunted aspect to it.
the older the house, the more spirits and souls, whether living or not, have passed through it. And that's
Right.
a prime example of what you're saying. But sometimes even newer houses, it could be the land that's haunted, not necessarily the house.
Right. A house built on like an old ancient gravesite or something, and hey, souls don't like the house being built there.
Which I think is part of the problem with the Conjuring House. But once we get something organized, if you and Russell want to join us, that's perfectly fine with me.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, just keep me in the loop, and I'll mention something to them and
Okay.
see what we can find out.
Speaking of Russell, we haven't even talked about Russell yet. He's been your wingman for how long now?
Well, he and I, he's actually somebody who I've known since I was a kid, but he and I really didn't get too close till the end of 2014, beginning of 2015. And so when I started getting on wrestling events full time, starting in like March of 2015, Russ would come with me and he'd record the match, or he'd watch in the crowd. And then when I went back to the NWF, he did security there a couple times. And when I left there after FanFest of 2017, I knew that Russ always wanted to be a manager, and didn't have any aspirations of actually being a wrestler or anything, just wanted to be a manager. So I figured, well, I'm getting to do my thing, so why not go ahead and start trying to break him in and see if I can let my brother, who has been with me on this ride for so long already, try to live his dream a little bit. So 2017, after FanFest, I brought Russ into the business, and then we started working at like Battle on the Border, and then LSC, and then different areas here and there. And then pandemic hit, and then we started up at FGW through the pandemic. And because our first events for FGW were back when they were still doing the tour nights, where because of the social distance and all that, they had to break it up. Because I started training with Cody for a little while there, like last, I think it was last summer.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was like as soon as the guidelines had been lifted to where we could actually get in there and just do cardio, you know, that's how I ended up getting my foot in the door with FGW. That's how Russ got his foot in the door there. But yeah, 2017 up to now, Russ has been by my side for just about every match. You know, there's been a couple here and there that he hasn't, you know, been there for, whether it be FGW when he's got something going on that he had to, you know, miss the show for, or just a situation where, you know, like with the Zucchini Fest, it's a Monday, you know, Russ has to work, and, you know, it's a situation where he's not necessarily needed because of the match. And I figured I probably could have beat Smalls without having him, but, you know, go figure. I lose without him. So turns out I needed my wingman, didn't have him. But who knows? Maybe, you know, if things go right with you know, the future for me at NOW, if there is one, then, you know, maybe they'll be seeing the Ultimate Wingman pop up alongside me at some point.
Okay. Yeah, I find him very entertaining, and I love his intro for you. I mean, that's why I asked you at NOW how you wanted to be introduced, because normally Russell does it.
Yeah, that was the first thing I looked at you and said was well, normally Russ does this. I've not really put too much thought in behind how I want to be introduced. Just, you know, and then I threw out the couple quick taglines that I could think of off the top of my head: Rich Woman's Dream, Poor Woman's Fantasy. And then obviously, you know, the moniker Quintessential Male and Big Jake Shepherd, you know. But yeah, that's one of the, you know, main things that I've always tried to make sure that he's gotten, because him being a manager, you know, he definitely needs something to add into the, you know, product. And I'm a good promo. I can talk for myself. And in fact, I've had a lot of people tell me, well, you don't need him because you can talk for yourself. And I don't feel as though I need him to talk for me, but he can when I don't want to, or I can talk for him when he don't want to. But the one thing that I, you know, want him for sure is that intro, you know. So I've always, you know, some places I've had to, you know, try to fight tooth and nail just to get the intro for him, because I'm like, it's literally, you know, 30 seconds to a minute tops, and it's going to help get him, you know, more established. And then if you want to put him with other people, he can have a whole stable. You know, he's an actual manager, you know, who has a thing that he does that, you know, he's able to utilize. And his voice and his mouth is where the money's at for him. It's not what he physically can do. He's not going to, you know, go out there and suplex anybody, you know, he's not going to body slam anybody, but he's going to be able to use his voice, use his mouth, and, you know, use the quick wit that he has to help introduce me, help get the crowd to either hate us or love us. I've seen it, you know, both ways. Sometimes, you know, even hate us until they love us, you know. So it's just one of those things that I know his skill set, and I, you know, I've always pushed to try to utilize it the best way possible. Some people have chose to, you know, go the opposite of that sometimes, but, you know, even in those situations where he's wrestling and that's not his skill set at all, you know, like he shouldn't be in the ring to actually be in a match. But, you know, when he does get put in there, we always make sure that he's protected. And, you know, I take it upon myself to make sure that he's going to be all right, because at the end of the day, that is my, you know, older brother. That's, you know, he's my ultimate wingman. You know, the guy who's been by my side since the end of 2014, beginning of 2015. We've been through a lot of ups and downs together. You know, there was a point in time where I had 2 herniated discs in my back and had drop foot going on where I couldn't even move my right foot. And we had tickets for Monday Night Raw in Cincinnati. And, you know, I was trying to, you know, walk through the streets of downtown Cincinnati with half a good leg at that point, because, you know, my 2 herniated discs were really wrecking my, you know, legs.
Right.
And Russ was essentially my crutch, you know, the entire the entire way to the venue, to go watch Monday Night Raw. He literally was underneath my shoulder, just taking all the weight that I couldn't at that point. So, he's somebody that I know has my back and is always going to be there for me. And that's the type of loyalty that you can't even buy.
Well, you can definitely tell there's a very good chemistry between you two when you come out. That's why I asked how long you'd been together, because it seems like you guys have been together a lot longer than you actually have. But you said you grew up with him, so.
To a certain degree, of course, going outside of what we tell everybody, he's technically my cousin's fiance. So, I probably met him when I was somewhere around 10 to 13. So around 2004 to, 2007-ish, somewhere in that range, but didn't really get to know the man until 2015.
Well, you guys definitely can tell how well you work together. And I actually, when you have a match, I actually enjoy him coming out and introducing you, because he gets that big, and I don't want to steal his shtick, but he's really good with that.
Well, I'll thank you on his behalf, because I'm sure that he would say he appreciates it.
So Donnie,
Mm-hmm.
time's running short, so we got to drop the question on Jake.
All right. So here's a question we ask everybody that comes on the podcast. There's no right or wrong answer. We just like to get inside the mind of our guests and see how they think. And the question is, you are the main serial killer in your own horror film. What is your go-to kill?
Ooh, so what do you mean by go-to kill?
What's your, just like Jason's moniker is the machete, Freddy's is the claw, the knife fingers. What would be your go-to kill to kill somebody?
How would you want to kill somebody if you were the main serial killer?
What would be your finisher, in other words?
That's a very good question. Man, I mean, do you chop them up? Do you
whatever you want?
Do you use like a Meathook type deal? I mean,
however you want to kill somebody. If you were just so crazy and you wanted to off somebody, how would you do it?
Let's see. So if I'm a serial killer in a movie here, I gotta say, it'd probably be almost some like See No Evil, type deal, like the movie that Kane was in,
Mm-hmm.
Either that or a chainsaw, just because it seems like it'd be fun to operate a chainsaw in that type manner, just as a serial killer for that.
A little Leatherface action.
Yeah. There was actually a independent movie that was trying to be made here, not too long ago, right before the pandemic hit, and they actually had wanted me to, be the main, like the serial killer, and I think it was some kind of hook that they were going to have him use.
Mm-hmm.
But then the pandemic hit, and that ended up falling through. So, but that would have been a fun experience to have been in that, and then
for sure,
been here, but unfortunately that didn't happen. But I'm down to be in a horror movie if any horror directors out there wants a super heavyweight with long hair.
That can handle a nice meat hook,
and can do his own stunts.
All right.
No stunt double for me.
I like that you mentioned Meathook.
Yeah.
Because of
I wanted to see how many times I could say it.
So, Jake, this has been really fun, and we'd love to do it again sometime, and hopefully we'll get to see you up in Now Wrestling in the near future. That, of course, is up to Donnie since he's the boss.
Mhm. Oh yeah, I'm sure we'll see him around.
Do you have a social media presence where people can find out more about you, where you might be wrestling, things like that?
So as far as that, I need to get a lot better at that. That is one part of the game that I do realize that right now is lacking. I had an Instagram for a while, but I recently went and deleted that just because I felt like I just kind of wanted to restart, rebrand, kind of just refresh a little bit. But as far as Facebook, obviously Jake Shepard, that's the profile. That's my actual profile if anybody wants to send a friend request or message request. And then also there is the Facebook page, the Quintessential Male and the Ultimate Wingman. And that's up there. So if anybody wants to send anything through there, um, I know that me and Russ try to update that page. We haven't really been doing a whole lot of updating on it here as of late, but hopefully next time, that I get asked that question about the social media presence, I'll actually have some social media to be able to present.
Okay. All right. Well, with that being said, this is Meathook Jim with Donnie Hoover and our special guest, the Quintessential Male, Jake Shepard. This is the WrestleHorror Podcast. Thanks for watching and listening.
See you guys.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you follow us on all of our social media outlets, facebook.com/WrestleHorror, Instagram @WrestleHorror, Twitter @WrestleHorror, on YouTube at the WrestleHorror channel. And you can also find us on our website, www.WrestleHorror.com.